Hey, it's Between Us. Welcome back to season 1, episode 8 of the Between Us podcast. This is going to be the last episode of this season. I specifically saved this episode for the very end until I was actually in the mindset to talk about it because this is something that's really important to me, and I've been struggling with it as of lately. But um, it's time to be like for real and honest with myself, and like why not just do it with y'all? So this episode is going to be about forgiving yourself, whether that be for something that you did on purpose, something you accidentally did, just something that is making you feel really guilty about living your life right now or being who you are. Because I find that I walk around with a lot of guilt in my everyday life, and that's not really fair or necessary. I don't think it's necessary for anybody to walk around with heavy guilt on their shoulders every single day, making themselves feel bad about themselves. Because let's be for real, the person who hurt you probably is not thinking about it. So, the least you can do is forgive yourself for doing shit that you probably are embarrassed about. So when I think about this topic in itself, there's a song that comes to mind called "Waiting Room" with by Rex Orange County. It's one of the songs that, like, honestly, I just play in any time of need. It's like he talks about how if life is just simply for God, what's the point of living life if it's all for Him? Um, so you got to make sure that you're also living for yourself. I believe in God, obviously. I'm not saying that everybody has to, but you don't. In times where you can't live for yourself, live for God. You know what I mean? So in times where you can live for yourself, make sure you're living for yourself. But specifically, the line that stands out to me is, "I'd like to know if you smile when you're alone." And I find that when you are living life in such guilt and like emotional turmoil and being so hard on yourself, you're not going to be able to smile when you're alone. And honestly, that's when your smile is worth the most. When you're sitting in your room or in your car, standing in a grocery store, and you're able to smile to yourself because you're not inflicted with the burden of other people and what they think of you. So when you're by yourself, do you like you? And if the answer is no, uh, and if it's because you're feeling guilty, then there's only one way of getting out of that, and that's working towards forgiving yourself. Forgiving yourself for shit that, like, you probably did when you were in high school and you were like, damn, I shouldn't have fucking did that. Or you said something to somebody and you're like, damn, I really shouldn't have fucking said that. Recently I got into an argument with I wouldn't say she was a friend, but got into somebody who I was talking with, like we were close or kind of whatever. And I'm not gonna lie, I jumped out of character a bit, and I've been feeling guilty for that. Um, really guilty for that, and I haven't been able to think otherwise. But I really just disconnected from social media and my phone. As you can see, this is not our usual podcast spot. I'm in a new place now. I'm back home in Toronto, and I'm at work in Cambridge. I'm surrounded by so much nature and stuff, so disconnecting was really easy, and I find that it was really helpful. Social media is something that I feel like is a toxic thing in everybody's life because sometimes it could be so good. Like, I'm loving social media, I'm posting the real me. And then all it takes is just like one bad day on social media for you to hate your life and hate yourself and everything that, like, you see that isn't yours. You're like, oh, fuck, like, that person's 20, I'm 20. Why the fuck don't I have that? And it's like, you can't live life through social media. So when you're having a hard time mentally, I find that disconnecting from social media or like logging off, deleting the app, deleting the account, whatever you need to do, getting off of those platforms really does help center yourself because you're only able to think for yourself and compare your life to what you've already had in the past or and where you are now in the future. So that really helped me being out here in the nature. There's some animals out here. We do campfires and stuff, and it's just really been helpful in the sense of like I'm starting to go back to who I actually am, not who I I strive to be because people told me that's what I should be. Do you know what I mean? Like, um, I find that I'm able to listen to music that I actually like, not music that I should like. I'm able to laugh louder, smile harder, and actually like be myself. And that just isn't something that I do all the time, especially with fucking social media. Social media makes me feel like shit all the fucking time, which is pretty funny considering that I have a podcast and I must be on social media for this podcast. But I think social media is one of the bane of my existences. Um, but back to forgiving yourself. I think the first step to forgiving yourself is making sure that you don't let yourself off easy. Um, don't just be like, oh yeah, I didn't mean it and my intentions weren't bad, so I fucking hate that. Do not ever just think about your intentions when looking back at an event that has really bothered you. Just because you have good intentions does not mean it had um I don't even know how to explain it, but just because you had good intentions does not mean that it came across as good to the other person. It may have had a bad effect on the person or the situation, whatever it is. Your intention has to has to have control over your actions. So if your intention is to not hurt people, if your intention is to, I don't know, not be a dick, then make sure that your actions align with your intentions. So let's say in this sense, your intentions were good, but your actions did not correlate. It didn't equate to whatever. It's just like the sum of a bad problem. Just make sure that you're holding yourself accountable for that. Do not be like, oh, okay, my intentions were good, so who cares if it came out wrong or if, because that's just not how the world works. Nobody gives a fuck what your intentions are. Everybody cares about what the actions are. Because let's be for real, actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than intentions. Actions speak louder than anything because that's how you're putting yourself forward in the world. So just make sure you're not letting yourself eat off easy. But with that being said, make sure that you do give yourself grace. You can't. There has to be a middle ground here. I find that it's really hard to find the middle ground, but life isn't easy. Everything is fucking hard. So just choose what's important to you. So if forgiving yourself and moving forward, maneuvering yourself through the world with positivity and self righteousness is important to you, then this is something that's going to be hard for you. It's not going to be easy to just be right in the middle at the sweet spot. You have to find your own sweet spot. And I find that there's obviously letting yourself off too easy, being super indulgent in your own behaviors and just not taking accountability for your actions. And then there's being so fucking hard on yourself that it's hard to even find any improvement because you're always going to find a reason to like take yourself down, talk down to yourself. That's very easy to do when you have like depression or anxiety, anything, any type of mental illness that inhibits your serotonin receptors. But I find that like you just have to try to create a routine of making sure that if you find that you are not somebody who can see the can see the silver lining and everything, that's okay. You don't have to see the silver lining in anything. Not everything has a silver lining, but I do think that it is important to make sure that you hold yourself to the same grace that you hold other people. So if you have to be able to take a step back, look at the situation and be like, yeah, my intentions were good, my intent was bad. I mean, my actions didn't portray my intentions. And you have to be able to be like, this is what I'm gonna do to move forward, not you fucking stupid bitch. Da-da-da-da. You can't talk to yourself like that. You can't talk down to yourself. You're gonna have to be like, yes, I did not have the information that I have now on the situation, and now I can move forward. With that being said, I do find that it's important to give yourself kindness in that sense as well. Um, I feel like it's like a cliche old saying of like kindness goes a long way or like kindness is free. Um but truly kindness is the only thing that can get you anywhere. They also like the whole joke is like, oh, being a hater is free. Yeah, being a hater is free. But is being a hater going to create connections with people that can get you in a better situation than you are in? And the answer is no. If you form a connection with somebody based off of hate, like if you're like, we both hate this person, so let's be besties, you're not going to get anywhere. You're literally surrounding yourself in like a dark cesspool of negativity, and I just don't see, and I've never seen any good come out of a relationship fueled on hatred. Now, let's say we're both broke and we're both trying to I don't know, make it, and we're both kind to each other. We just give a little bit. Like we don't have anything to give, but you give a little bit. Like if you're like, oh, like I know like you're going through it, but I hope you have a good day today, or oh, I'm here for you. You be a listening ear. That kindness can get you somewhere because that's forming a connection, a bond with somebody to ensure that you guys' mental health, like your mental health, do not decline. Or let's be for real. In that sense, you're kind to somebody and they remember that fucking kindness and they get skyrocketed up to the top and you are still struggling and they see you and they're like, oh my god, I remember when I was struggling that you had my back. I'm gonna fucking help you. It's kind of just like you always remember where you came from. And do you want to be remembered from a place of hate and negativity and always just wishing bad upon people, or saying, talking out of the side of your mouth, getting up your face when somebody is doing something good? Or do you want to be remembered as, oh, like, I remember that like when shit went wrong with me, she helped me, or I remember when shit went wrong with her life, I noticed that like she didn't let it kill everything in her. Do you know what I mean? Like she didn't let it take her out of character. I think it's so important to remain in your character um throughout any aspects of your life. Otherwise, that's not your character. Otherwise, that's just not who you are. Obviously, that's easier said than done. A lot of things I just said are easier said than done. But as I said, life is hard. And I find that if you're not going to work towards something, you're just going to be bored. And when you're bored, that's when you start to let ugly sins come into your life. I don't mean sins like in the sense of like holiness and God. I mean sins like shit that you don't like, shit that you don't stand for, and you're just letting it take over your life just because you're like, oh fuck, I'm bored, I have nothing to do. Let me drink a bunch more. Let me smoke a bunch more. And that's, you know, that's not what you want. It's basically just things that you know that you don't want. Don't let that shit come into your life out of boredom. Make sure that you're always staying on track with like what you want. Align yourself for what you want. There's no point in putting yourself in a bad situation when you know that's not where you want to be. And I'm not saying that everybody that's in a bad situation puts them there, their mindset puts them there. I'm saying if you are in a situation, you have control over it. And I mean, like, if I'm being so for real, I'm so tired of the whole narrative of like, I'm so unable to help myself right now. That is true. Sometimes you're unable to help yourself, but maybe there's somebody to turn to, maybe there's somebody to call, maybe there's something to look up on Instagram to like help you out of your problem. I feel like there's a difference between complaining and truly trying to fix where you are, and that's all within holding yourself accountable for a lot of things. And I find that this is a very hard conversation for me to even have. Like right now, I'm so mad at myself for saying half of these things, but it's really just because I'm calling myself out. There's so many things that I just don't hold myself accountable for, and then I get mad at the fact that that happened later on. It's like, you have control over your life. Stop making excuses for yourself, and then maybe you'll be able to forgive yourself. Stop living with guilt, and you can just maneuver freely. That's all. I don't know if that's the human goal, but to me, that's what life is about. To be able to live freely. Let's take away all the stupid materialistic things. Let's take away money. Let's take away the fucking name brand shirts. Let's take away the gold, the job, the taxes, the house. Let's take away everything that they tell you you need. And think about you and what values you have. And if you can see that within yourself, especially when you're alone, please stop feeling guilty. Please just start working towards making sure that you are the best version of yourself. And I think a part of the reason why I feel guilty personally all the time, it's just because of the people I've lost along the way and the way I've handled losing those people. There's some that I've handled with absolutely no response at all that I'm probably like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And there's some that I've gone to the absolute extremes where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't haven't done that as well. Either way, however I handled the situations, I am where I am today. And that's kind of what is supposed to happen. I believe that you learn through your errors, your mistakes and stuff like that. So don't feel guilty about being human and making mistakes and being unsure about many things. It's just what happens sometimes. But yeah, that's another thing. Um, as I said kind of before, I'm gonna say is make sure that you're sharing your humanity or sharing your views with yourself and those around you. I talked about it in my episode with Dr. Benjamin Chung. Um, it's so easy to say, "Oh, that person didn't do that because of this," or "That person didn't do that," and then for yourself, you're like, "I didn't do that because there's an excuse here. There was this circumstance," and because you know yourself and you know your life. So make sure that whatever excuses or whatever grace you're giving yourself, that you're going to give to the next person. And if you're not comfortable with giving it to the next person, don't give yourself that luxury. Don't be like, "Oh, like I slept in because I had a late night last night because I decided to do my homework at 10 p.m." And then you're gonna be, "Oh, it's okay that I woke up late and missed my class or missed work a bit." But you know for a fact that if you were to go into your shift and somebody was 10 minutes late to your shift, you're gonna be pissed as fuck, especially if it's busy. Don't give yourself luxuries and like excuses and fallbacks that you're not willing to give somebody else. Just like do not give somebody praises that you're not willing to give yourself. I find that obviously it's so much easier to love somebody else because you don't know all of them. You don't know them in their darkest hour. You know you in your darkest hour. And it's so hard to love yourself through all the darkness and all the depression and all the shitty feelings that you have inside because you know you. But that's just humanity. We we only truly know ourselves, and that's exactly why we have to love ourselves, because you're the only person you have until you die. You came into this world alone, and I hate to say it, but you're going to die alone. So there's really no point in not holding yourself to the same standards you hold other people. Allow yourself to enjoy life to the fullest extent, just like you're allowing them to enjoy life to the fullest extent. You see that girl on Instagram, you think she's so pretty, just like another girl sees you on Instagram and thinks you're so pretty. You thought his outfit was cool, he thinks your outfit is cool. So just make sure that you are not belittling yourself or enlarging yourself to a place where you don't have any company. That's not safe. If you hate yourself to a point where you don't have anybody around you, look around and you're like, "I don't hate anybody as much as I hate myself." That's not fair to you. How are you giving yourselves such deep, dark feelings that you wouldn't even give to the next person? Just like, how are you giving that celebrity all your time and effort, all that space in your mind to memorize what their dislikes and their likes are, all the words to their songs, and you're not even willing to understand that you are just as great as the fucking celebrity? What, because they have more money than you? Work towards it and get what you want, just like they're working towards it. They can be your role model. That can be a goal of yours, but never ever love a celebrity more than you love yourself. Just like, I feel like obviously it's hard to do, but treat yourself like you're your own best friend. Love yourself as much as you love your homegirl, your homeboy, because I promise that your homegirl or your homeboy loves you as much as you love them. So why don't you deserve that self love? Why don't you deserve a heart full of empathy, compassion, sincerity, caring? Like, why don't you deserve all the good things in the world? And if your answer is because people told you that you don't deserve it, fuck that person. As I told you, a hater mentality gets you nowhere. Telling somebody that they don't deserve this or that because you're trying to make them feel bad is a shitty fucking thing to do. I've done that recently and I felt like shit. And honestly, I wish I could apologize, but I know that my apology isn't truly sincere because I'm still so fucking angry. So there's really no point of apologizing. But I find that you have to allow yourself to do that internal work, to allow yourself to be like, "Yeah, I shouldn't have fucking did that." Because once you can do that, is because that's again holding accountability. It's like a chain reaction. What do you want to call it? A domino effect. Everything is like a cycle, and I promise that you are worth as much love and compassion, but you're also worth as much deliberation and thinking as the next person. Give yourself the time and the grace to grow. give yourself the space and the time to grow. It is okay to just disappear for a day or two. It is okay to text your home buddy and say, "Hey, I'm not doing well. I'm just going to be off my phone for a bit." And take that time and just reset, because there's really nothing that you can do as a person who hates themselves for themselves. You can't. If I hate me, I'm going to carry myself in a way with such carelessness that is actually undeserving. I find that everybody deserves to love themselves, even if they've done fucking horrible ass shit, because that's the only way you're going to continue to be able to live a healthy, I want to say healthy in the sense of like a mentally healthy life. Because if you hate yourself, you'll take yourself to some dark places out there in the world. You'll just go absolutely ham. But honestly, as I said, I started this episode with the feeling of guilt. And I find that there's no way to really get rid of guilt besides embracing it. Do not avoid the guilt you feel in your heart. Be able to say, yeah, I did that and I really wish I fucking didn't. Or I'm guilty of that. I think once being able to say that you're guilty of something, once being able to say that you were wrong, honestly, that's when you're able to do the most work. That's when you're actually able to move out of the spot you're in. Like, okay, let's say life is like, um, let's say the floor is lava. Life is lava. And God gives you some stones, God's, the universe, whatever you believe. You're given some stones at the beginning of your life. And when when you're in a stone, it's lighting up. But obviously with time, lava is going to kill that rock. So you're obviously going to have to move on. You cannot stay in the same place forever. So in order to move on, you need to make sure that you're not holding on to anything that this old rock has to give you. So that means that if you're in a bad place, don't carry any of that baggage into the new place, or else the new place is gonna be tainted. It may be a little bad. So whether that's leaving the person behind, leaving that feeling behind, or just being able to say I'm sorry and move on into a new stage of your life, or just being able to say I'm guilty of this, and here's how I'm going to maneuver so that that never happens again. Honestly, the point of this episode was really, I hope something I said resonated with you. I just really am tired of hearing people hate themselves, of hating myself, because honestly, I don't think I've met anybody in this world that I haven't seen anything beautiful in them. I've seen at least one beautiful thing in every single person I've met, whether we're friends or not, to this fucking day. I'm appreciative of every single person I've met in my life, even if we're not friends to this day. So I hope you know that's probably the same for you. There's people who have met you that you may have fell out of touch with. Doesn't even have to be on bad terms. I promise they still remember that one thing, good thing you did for them. You are forgivable. You are worth forgiving. So please forgive yourself, because I promise that's when life will finally stop feeling like a fucking dark tunnel. Maybe you'll start to see that speck of light, even if it's not the brightest light of all. But remember, darkness, all it takes is a little light. And it's not as powerful because you can see something in it. Just like I see something in you. You said a little cliche. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I was really cliche as fuck. I just want to say thank you to everybody who has watched my podcast, who has talked to me about my podcast, who has shared my podcast. Obviously, a little towards the end, it was a little inconsistent because of Wi-Fi problems at home and stuff. But I promise the season 2, I'm gonna be on top of it every Monday. Between Us Mondays, #bum is gonna be out there, and I promise the content's just gonna get better from here. Thank you so much for watching the first season. I'm so proud of myself for doing 8 episodes of this, and I'm so proud of myself for actually connecting with people. So if anything I've ever said entirety of this season has made you feel a little better, then I think I did my job. If anything I've said also has pissed you off, then I've also did my job, because sometimes pissing you off is the only reaction I can get to invoke some change. So really, I'm appreciative, and that's a wrap. But hey, it's between us.